Hello everybody, welcome back to Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks. I'm Rebecca, I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in downtown Brevard, North Carolina. And I haven't been posting on here an awful lot, so I'm trying to get back to it. So, and heads up, this might be kind of rambly, but I'm gonna try something new. So, I have two YouTube channels with Sun Dragon Art and Fiber, and this is my second channel. So we have the Sun Dragon Sideshow, which we film at work, and it's with my assistant Liz and the second assistant Hannah now. And this show, I started this as a separate YouTube channel specifically for tips and tricks, help with stuff, right? And sorry, I'm getting texts and I gotta see me figure this out. And I started off making these videos, and at first not many people were watching. And if you go back to the early videos, there's still so few views on them. And then we did a make-along on a thing called the ranunculus, which is a really pretty sweater that you can modify in so many different ways with the thickness of yarn you're using, everything like that. And that made my channel just absolutely explode. And it was so cool. And it really was like, it was unexpected. I really busted my butt to put together like 17 videos to go along with this. Our make-alongs were like anyone could participate. There's no fees with them. These videos are free. And I really busted my butt to get those done, not thinking they would reach nearly as many people as they have, which has been beyond amazing, absolutely beyond amazing. And so, that was so cool, you know, and a lot of my videos since then have gotten a lot more hits than I would have thought. The other thing about it being lightning in a bottle is that, it's really hard to do that with another pattern. One thing people have requested is, could you do it for this pattern? Could you do it for that pattern? And they all want the one they're working on for me to do like 17 videos to help them through it. And that sweater, just, there was something about it. And maybe I could do it for another one, but I didn't even ask Midori's permission to do those, but I was really explicit on, you know, if you watch my channel, you've heard me do all this before of being like, you have to buy the pattern. I'm not going to give away things that aren't, that, you know, you'd have to be able to do the pattern and use these videos as assistance. And I feel like moving forward, I really need to get the permission of a pattern writer to do that. So if you're a pattern writer watching and you'd like my assistance, let's talk. But the other things that brought up for me though was I started going, okay, I already run a yarn shop. I'm already running a small business, and it's a lot of work. And doing these videos on the side, I used to kind of behave like I was superhuman and do it all. And one of the reasons people like my videos, and I agree, is I draw things out. There's a lot of prep work that goes into these videos. And we tried something starting a couple years ago where I was like, you know, I want to interact with people more. But that means a pay session because that's even more work. So I kind of stopped doing videos on the YouTube channel because I had to focus my energy on these virtual sessions I did. And those were awesome too. It's hard to do both. I'll just lay that out there. And then I caught COVID for the first time a little over a year ago. And that just kicked me on my butt. And trying to get everything done became really challenging. And there's a reason I'm rambling like this, or like some of you who watch this channel are like, we know all this already, you know? I tried to start getting back to some free videos last year. I only got through a few, and then we had to move for the second time in a year because of circumstances at the place we were leasing. And we got through all that, but right as we moved, Hurricane Helene hit. And for those of you who don't know, I live in Western North Carolina. I was not hit nearly as hard as Asheville, which is like 45 minutes away from here, and Swannanoa and all of those places. But we still got hit, and we still, again, just to pick up and get my feet under me and to have the shop start to operate. Like, we didn't even teach classes in the shop for months. And now it's, yay, it's 2025, new year, new us. And I'm trying to put together classes. But part of what that means is classes in the shop may mean like just taking a break from the virtual classes, because that was on top of, all these videos are on top of my regular job, just trying to keep a local yarn store, which I think is fabulous, but we have thin margins to keep it going. So, but I wanted to reach out to you all because I feel like I've lost touch with this community here. Like, I know a lot of people have been leaving comments and questions, and it's hard to stay on top of it all. So while I do more of a vlog podcast type thing with my assistants, I thought I'd also try that over here. And I'm hoping that this can lead to questions that I can answer. You know, if I can film once a week and once every couple of weeks, questions I can answer right here, kind of like we had the Dear Becky and Lizzie over on the sideshow. You can write comments below here, and I will try to watch these specific videos of what's more of a podcast version of this channel and see if I can address them. And I think that could also lead to inspiration for videos. There's a few videos I want to finish on the corner to corner aspect of crochet that I left dangling last year. I apologize to all of you, but again, it's a lot of extra work and I'm trying to manage this. And I'm not as young as I used to be. I look a lot younger than I am, and it's hard to keep up with it all. But this is not a podcast for me just to sit here complaining unless you can relate, right? So I want to do a check-in with y'all. And some of this is going to overlap with the sideshow, but since it's just me, I mean, we won't have the rapport we have on the sideshow, which is all kinds of fun. But I could talk about things I'm doing, yarns I like and I don't. And I mean, you know me, it's probably going to be yarns I carry in my shop and whether I like them or not. And I'm biased because I like most of the things that I carry in the shop. Sorry, I'm seeing wires here that shouldn't be here. But I figured this is a way to have more of a connection with the people who like this channel, want to watch it, feel like they've been helped, which is amazing. I can't believe I've gotten messages from like all over the place. It's been really, really cool. So I'm hoping maybe this here I can interject with small things if people want to see small things that don't require the whole whiteboard, the whole setup. I can intermix this with me actually performing techniques that you want to see. But if I think it will benefit from pictures, I'll draw those too. So all that being said, yeah, I really want to be able to share stuff with y'all and get things out to you that don't require quite as much editing, because that's the reason that the tips and tricks videos have not come out as often recently, is there is an awful lot of editing that goes into those. And the ranunculus ones didn't have as many pictures. So maybe I can find a blend between them all, because I still want to be faithful to my mission and what I represent as a channel, you know. So anyway, so to share with you some of the foibles and things I've been going through of how, even if you've been knitting for a really long time, because I have people come in all the time and say, well, you're the expert. And I'm like, am I? I've been doing it for a while, but am I? I don't know. I think we're all always learning. And I hope to be making more posts on the life lessons from knit and crochet as well. There's like almost too many lessons that happen for me to film them. And I feel like they overlap so much that I'm always feeling a little uneasy about what I do when. Anyway, excuse me. I gotta tell you, in mountains of North Carolina, allergies, hate them. Anyway, and speaking of like natural disasters and things, this isn't really a disaster, but this is the craziness about living in North Carolina. Like, we got 3 to 4 inches of snow mixed with sleet and other things, so it does complicate the issue on Friday, and we shut down the shop on Friday. And then the road conditions were too hazardous to go in on Saturday. And that's fine. You know, it sucks. We just got back from our 2-week-long break, and then we were open for 3 days. And it's now Monday. So it snowed Friday. It's iffy on Saturday with the road conditions, but it kept getting like kind of warm and then freezing. So it's Monday now, and the shop is closed Sunday and Monday. So yay. But I'm grateful to have one more day, and hopefully the temperature, it's 40 degrees outside right now, so some of it might melt. But anywhere the sun doesn't hit, like there could still be ice tomorrow on my way to work, which is just like, what? We got 4 inches, and some of us are still incapacitated 4 days later. But it's the South where we're not as used to getting snow and dealing with it, even though we do get snow. You know, the last big snowstorm was 2 years ago. This was not a big snowstorm. This was just a snowstorm. We have steep roads and curvy roads and all kinds of things that just, it's different. So anyway, so yeah, I'm looking at all the snow outside still. And it's just like, this should not be a big deal. I grew up in New England, but it is. Okay, so back to where I was. I'm gonna scroll on this channel too. Can you tell? Back to this, to having to redo stuff. So a couple of things. One, this is, okay. I am making a pair of bed socks for my dad to keep his feet warm for his birthday. And he wears like a size 11 and a half shoe. And I'm making them out of our Herriot Fine. I'm going to shamelessly plug yarn from our shop. I'm also going to tell you, honestly, the pros and cons of yarn from our shop. But Herriot Fine is fingering weight alpaca and nylon. So the nylon hopefully will give it some integrity. But we tell people, if you want to make, I might sneeze. If you want to make socks out of this, know that alpaca is not going to, even with the nylon, it's not going to hold up as well as wool. And so the heels and toes could wear out. But if he's going to wear them as bed socks, that's my hope, then these should be okay. So bigger feet, not sure how to, I was looking up all these different patterns or ideas, or, you know, the classic 64 stitch cast on for a sock. I'm like, I don't think it's going to work because he's got big feet. And I also bumped up my needles. These are the Prim Carbons we carry in the shop. I don't know why I love double point needles right now. There was a time when I was like, no, I will never use double points again, now that I've learned other ways to do what I call small circumference knitting. By the way, I have videos on all 3 versions: double points, magic loop, and 2 circulars. So I'm like, I'll use bigger needles and I'll cast on more stitches. I'm used to doing socks on 0s, and these are 3s. There's a difference of, excuse me, I want to say like at least a millimeter, if not more. We'll see. I have to go back and look at my millimeterage again. I'm an expert, but I don't know everything in my head. So I cast on 68 stitches and started to knit with bigger needles. And I got about this far and went, these look huge. These look absolutely mammoth. I mean, even this looks a little big. But I was measuring across, like just across, to get an idea of what the circumference is, and I was getting 5 inches, which means at least 10 inches around, right? And my dad's not here to try these on. So, but the charts I'm looking at say even the 12 to 13 size foot, the circumference is going to be 9 3/4 inches. So I was like, oh crap. This ain't gonna work. But I'd already knit like this much, and I was like, do I really want to remake it? And then I went, yeah, I do. So I ripped it all out last night, and through some very industrious knitting on just this, yes, I knit a lot faster than most people. I've knit it all back up. I had like a pile of just frogged, you know, just sitting there, and I'm like, as long as I don't move it and knit off of it, that won't tangle. And it mostly didn't tangle. So I'm learning I should bring in some water with me if I'm going to keep talking for this long. Anyway, So I reknit this all today, and that might sound like, what? But it's also like, it's midday. I got up decently early. I also stayed up really late last night, working on my newsletter and a couple other things. So, yeah. Don't expect this is going to happen, but like this fast. But I wanted to do 2 inches of ribbing, and ribbing usually kills me. But this whole thing looks and feels better just taking out 4 stitches. It's really weird. So instead of having 17 stitches on each needle here, I've got 16. Why that makes such a difference? And I measured it because I make socks for myself with 64 stitches. I'm like, it's not going to work. But again, the difference in needle size. I measured this just laying it flat, which is not the most scientific and best way to do it. And now it's like 4.5 inches instead of 5. So this should hopefully fit him a little better, even though they're bed socks and, you know, we still don't want him falling off his feet. I haven't measured this to see how long it is, but I'm hoping that in a few inches I can start doing the heel. His birthday's on the 20th. So it's another reason, deadline knitting, to start going faster. Anyway. Try to get it done a little faster. The other thing that has been a failure for me lately, but I have pivoted, is I have this yarn. I picked out this color combo because this is really bright, but it was only going to be for detail work. This is Amano Turay, and it is a cotton, Pima cotton merino wool blend. And the wool cotton blends, I'm like, I don't get them. Like, wool for warmth, cotton for breathability, like, or warm weather, or cool weather. Yeah, no, warm weather. Cotton for the warm weather when you need something not as heavy. I'm like, why put them together? This is actually really soft and lovely. So it's the one like cotton wool blend we have in the shop. It's worsted weight, solid number 4. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make a colorwork sweater out of it called the Harvester. And it'll be one of our make-alongs this year. And it still is. And I was like, this is going to be so exciting because it'll be gray, kind of like a sweatshirt, but then I'll have this pop of wheat looking stuff on it. And I went to do my gauge swatch because the Ravelry listing says worsted. Again, Harvester by Jennifer Steingass. I love her as a pattern writer. It's amazing. She's amazing. I love all of her stuff. And Ravelry said worsted weight yarn. I was like, boom, because that's usually as far as I look, and then I'm done. If I had actually read the description a little better before buying it, it actually is written for a DK to a light worsted. Now, when she or whoever posted for her on Ravelry put it up there, they might have said, you know, more people will try it if it says a thicker yarn. This is like a solid worsted. This is not a light worsted where it's thinner. And so her biggest needle is a 5 recommended for the pattern, a US 5, which is a 3.75 millimeter. And I'm stuck at home in the snow. So I looked through my interchangeable set, which has like 3 needles left in it. And I said, okay, I'll try a gauge swatch on a 6. If I get close, it's great. Since it is a solid worsted, thicker, I was still getting 16, 17 stitches to 4 inches on the 6, and I was supposed to get 20. Now that's 4 stitches. That's an example. 4 stitches per inch instead of 5. Like how different that's going to be. It means 16 stitches fit into the same space that 20 should. So the stitches should be a lot smaller. And I'm thinking, the fabric's going to feel weird if I go down smaller. I might have to go smaller than a 5. This is not going to work. I could make it work, but I don't think it's going to work. I think this sweater will do a lot better on an actual DK or a true light worsted. And we have plenty of those in the shop, although I've already made plenty of sweaters in all of those other yarns, and I really want to show off this yarn. So I pivoted. I am still going to do the Harvester. It kind of is like the Avena. For those of you who know, the Avena has this like woo, and it's this it's the sweater that gets the most compliments in my shop is the Avena, because it's got color work, but it looks like it moves. So I'm going to pick a different yarn for that. Probably Juniper Moon Patagonia. But I still want to use this yarn. I found a pattern. I can't remember the name of it now, which doesn't help you all out. I think it's called the Stillin or something like that. It's by Rebecca Cook, I want to say. If I remember, I'll put this all in the description. If not, ask questions. Put questions down there, and when I come back, say next week or so, I will look at those questions and I will address them in this podcast type setting. It is, what's cool about this what I've pivoted to use just the gray, because it's not color work. It's one color, but I think it still has some cool interest in it. This guy, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've already wound him. I don't know what I'm going to do with him. But what I'm going to do with this yarn, and this is my new gauge swatch. It's not big enough. Let me put that right out there. I live dangerously. It should be a lot taller if it's going to be a real proper gauge swatch. This pattern that was just published, January 2025, has a vest option, a pullover, and a cardigan. So that's going to be my first make along. Again, not a ton of free videos with it probably, but if you have questions, I could address them here. For locals, we're going to have a kickoff session for $50. And we're going to have free sit and stitch options specifically for that. Look on our shop calendar, specifically for this guy to sit and knit and have fun. Questions and help with that at the shop. Go to an hourly rate in the teaching room. It's like the doctor's room versus the waiting room type of thing. But I like that there's different options so you can pick what you want to make. Because most of our make-alongs this year are just going to be like one sweater. I keep changing things up. I keep not knowing what I want to do and what's going to work for everybody else too. And honestly, those two things very infrequently overlap, unfortunately, which makes it hard to run a business. But hey, but it's got just different textures, stripes of different textures to keep your interest, because for a plain sweater, what often kills me is I get bored, right? So I found another use for this. What to do with this guy, though, I don't know. Maybe I make a vest out of this, and I make a pullover or cardigan out of this. I don't know. But I think it's going to be absolutely lovely. It's going to be really wonderful. I thought I'd just show you a couple other things I'm working on. And then, this is my inaugural episode. Half hour feels like it's pretty good, probably, I want to get back to this. I started it last year. I've made it a make-along in June and July, I think, of the Granny Hexigon cardigan. And this might not look like much. I'm literally using shop leftovers for this. Old dye lots, things like that. But the Hexigon, it will not lay flat if you put it down on the table. But the cool thing about it is when you fold it right, it makes, like, this is going to be, if I hold it the right way, I don't know. This is going to be the underarm for my cardigan. And I think this could go really quickly. Like, people who crochet can kind of settle into a rhythm and have it go pretty quickly. And I think I'm just going to make it totally like mismatched, or potentially opposite one side from the other. And I think that's going to be really fun. Like, I don't make a whole lot of garments out of crochet. And so when I find one that works, that's awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. And then on a personal project note, shout out to Jeff, who has started his own podcast, and people should totally check it out, Losing My Knit. He knows that, I like cats not because I have a cat. Like, I'm a dog person, but I'm a cat person because I own a cat now. And Andrea Rangel just published a pullover called CatKnit Sweater. And I've gotten far enough that you can see the little cat heads now. Woohoo! It's fingering weight. It's going to take me forever. Let's be honest. But I've got the little cat heads. I think it's so cool. It's gonna have all the way down to like it's a whole sitting cat all the way around. And I tested my gauge for this, and then she has you use a bigger needle when you're doing color work. So I'm on a 2s and 3s. It's kind of crazy, but she like I don't plan on teaching this as a class because it just is going to take forever. But she has you go up a needle when you're doing stranded color work. And one of my things with stranded color work is I like to just knit really loosely and forget about my gauge. So it could be that this is going to come out ridiculously huge and not fit at all. And I will just figure that out when it comes to it, but I will keep you posted here. So there's like 15 cats all the way around. Like they're upside down now, but that's the best way I can kind of show you. And I picked Fyberspates Vivacious 4-ply in oatmeal and verdigris. And we get the verdigris out here because I figured that would look the most like my tabby cat. So they're not quite solids. Like the oatmeal is as close as you come to a solid in the Fyberspates. But I'm hoping on this channel, so that's some of the crazy things I'm doing right now. I'm hoping with this playlist, basically, because the channel overall is still a help channel, tips and tricks. I'm hoping I can talk about things that I'm doing, things we might not have time for on the sideshow anymore because we film 1 day a week instead of 3. Maybe give you reviews of stuff from my shop if you're interested, like this little project wallet that I thought was not going to be functional at all. I kind of like it from Coco Knits. A lot of these things, it might be a reason to get them up into my online shop because that's another thing that it's kind of hard to stay on top of at this point. But this little guy, I'm like, how can a little paper thing like this keep my notions all organized? And like the pockets are actually awesome, and I traveled with it with like a crochet hook in here and stitch markers and sewing needles and all kinds of stuff, and then I just wrapped it shut and I didn't lose anything, which was kind of awesome. So yeah, so I'm hoping that this will keep me publishing at least when it's really hard to get the help videos out. Then I still want to do some of those. So if there's something that's really hoping I'll do a video on, let me know, and I can tell you if A, there already is a video, or B, I might want to upgrade that video, so thanks for the suggestion, or C, it's something I can do, or D, it's out of my league. There's lots of options here, but so many of you have subscribed, and if you haven't already, please consider that. I'd like to keep giving you something, and right now this is just going to be an update on how my crafting is going. And some of this, if you don't have a whole lot of time to knit or crochet and you're just like, how are you doing so much? Some of it is it's my job. And some of it is I knit fast, and some of it is and crochet pretty quickly too. And some of it is I have to, if I will burn out if I don't slow down and do some of this stuff. So it might sound like a contradiction that like I don't have enough time to get stuff done, and yet all this knitting is happening, but they serve different purposes. So I'm going to try not to burn out because I just took like 2 weeks of rest over winter break to try to get myself back to some sense of sanity. But I want to stay in touch with you all and find a way to interact with you all that is not as intense all the time for me, and doesn't require, like, as much as the pay lessons were awesome, the virtual sessions were really great, and I'll bring those back if and when I can, but right now I think I need to take a break from them. They were a great way to connect with people and help my shop stay afloat because money came off of them. But I also understand not everyone can afford that, and so I'd like to find other ways to connect with people. Because honestly, this is a win-win situation, because if more people watch this, I do get a little bit of ad revenue off of it. And so that way, maybe we can all stay afloat and all stay sane. So, yeah, that was my meandering first attempt at a podcast over here. Let me know what you'd like to hear more or less of. I sometimes can guarantee you an answer on that, and sometimes I'll say you want less of this, but this is what I like talking about. But you know, feedback is good. And so stick with me if you like, put questions in, and these episodes, at least to the next week, I will try to make lists of comments and questions people make so I can address them. And as I always like to say when I sign off, may your crafting be filled with joy and confidence. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.